Today, we are going to look at frogs in the genus Ecnomiohyla, more commonly known as the fringe-limbed tree frogs. This is a group of frogs you have likely never heard of, and, to be honest, many of the species here are poorly known. One of the things I'm learning from doing these videos is that there is still a lot we don't know about the animals inhabiting our planet, and this video is yet another showcase for that. For those interested, there is a document in the description with notable research papers I used for this video, along with the details of the sources for the images used. This is the first video I'm doing on amphibians, so I feel it is worth taking a minute to talk about the class in general. Typically, amphibians rely on the water in at least some of their life stages. The name amphibian actually refers to this as it comes from the Greek amphibios and means living in both water and on land. For most amphibians, this means that they need to lay their eggs in the water, and the young live in the water before they undergo metamorphosis to their adult stage, so that they can live on land. Some amphibians have evolved away from this basic strategy, either foregoing the need to lay their eggs in the water, or, in some cases, doing the opposite and becoming entirely aquatic, even as an adult. The other trait of amphibians I want to take the time to mention is their skin. Amphibians are very sensitive to environmental changes, as their skin is much thinner than other vertebrates and not protected by the scales seen on most fish and reptiles. The reason for this is that many amphibians can use their skin to breathe, so require it to be thin enough for oxygen to transfer from the surrounding environment and into their bloodstream directly. This has the side effect of making them extremely sensitive to harmful chemicals in the environment. The skin also needs to stay moist, so adults of most species tend to stay near a source of water to ensure that they don't dry out. Adults do still have lungs, as they can't get all of the oxygen they need through their skin, but these are less developed than in other terrestrial vertebrates. There are only 3 living orders of amphibians. The first, and the one you are least likely to have heard of, is the caecilians in the order Gymnophiona. These are legless burrowing amphibians that are rarely seen. Next is the salamanders and newts in the order Heredia. Salamanders superficially look a little like lizards, but lack many of the distinguishing features of lizards like scales. They are known for their ability to heal from severe injuries, up to and including regrowing limbs. The last group is the largest, and the one people are most familiar with. This is the frogs and toads in the order Anura. Today's topic is a group of frogs, so this is the order we will be looking at in this video. As I said at the start, the genus we are looking at today is Ecnomiohyla, or the fringe-limbed frogs. This is in the family Hylidae, which contains the tree frogs. This is one of the largest families of frogs, with over 900 species currently recognized. Despite the name, not all of those frogs live in trees, although those in Ecnomiohyla do. The genus name is a combination of the Greek eknomios, meaning marvelous or unusual, and Hylas, a companion of Hercules. The Hylas part of this name is likely just used because it is the family name Hylidae, and is used by several other closely related genera as well. However, Hylas was the inspiration for a family of frogs, as most stories relate his abduction by water nymphs or naiads. Different versions have him marrying a water nymph or being drowned by them, but either way he is associated with water. As for what makes Ecnomiohyla marvelous or unusual, they are one of the groups of frogs that can glide. They have large hands and feet for their size, and along with the webbing between their digits, this can be used to glide from high up in the tree canopy to escape from danger, or possibly to move to other trees. I really tried to find a photo or video to show this to you, but as I said at the start, they are not well known, so unfortunately I came up with nothing. The footage you are watching is of the gliding tree frog, a Galchnus spirelli, which is in an entirely different family. Still, it gives you an idea for how these frogs use their enlarged hands and feet to glide. The other distinctive feature of Ecnomiohyla is the sides of their arms and legs are noticeably bumpy. This is believed to help with gliding, but also leads to the common name of fringe-limbed tree frogs. This genus was created in 2005 when the family Hylidae underwent a massive review. Many of the species in Hylidae were moved to other genera, and many new genera were created to put the frogs that did not belong in any existing genus. Ecnomiohyla is one of those. At the time, 10 frogs were placed in this genus, but since then a further 3 species have been discovered, and 1 old species was again moved, so there are now 12 species in the genus. Having said that, some of them might be extinct, but I will mention that when we go through the different species. Starting to look at the phylogeny, I was only able to put 6 of the 12 species into it. The other 6 I have simply listed as incerti sedis. Literally, this translates from Latin to mean uncertain placement, but it basically means that I don't know where they go in the phylogeny. The reason for this is the only phylogeny that I could find for this genus was by Batista et al. In 2014, and they were focusing on the species found in Panama and Costa Rica, so do not include all species in their phylogeny. I'm going to start with the 6 species that Batista et al. Were looking at, so let's get started. The first species in the phylogeny is Copan brown treefrog, Ecnomiohyla miliaria. Despite its name, giving colours for frogs is pretty useless, as they are often not useful in identification. A single species can be found in many different colours and patterns, so other features are used for identification. For example, Copan brown treefrog has been noted as having mottled browns, metallic greens, or orange tan colours on their back. These, at least, are mostly shades of brown, so the name is not too far off. But I will not really bother going into colours for the other species since they can vary widely. I only mention it here to explain why it is pointless when talking about frogs. Copan brown treefrog is listed as least concern by the IUCN. Their justification for this is that this species covers a large area and so have a presumed large population. No one really knows how large their population is, but it is assumed to be decreasing as many amphibians are. It does have a rather large range, but previous years had it listed as vulnerable, so I am not sure what changed. Copan brown treefrog is found in southern Central America, including Panama, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. Historically, it has also been found in Honduras, although it is unknown if these frogs can still be found there. Copan brown treefrogs prefer lowland forests, but can be found up to 900 meters above sea level, or just under 3,000 feet. It lives in the high canopy, which is part of the reason it is rarely seen by humans. The next species is the Veraguas fringe-limbed treefrog, Ecnomiohyla veraguensis. This is one of the 2 new species that Batista et al. Described in 2014. It is named after the province in Panama where it was found. It has been found in Panama and Costa Rica, but only in very limited locations. It is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN due to its limited range. It has been found between 230 meters above sea level to 540, or 750 to 1700 feet. They have extensive webbing on their hands and feet and live in the high canopy of lowland forests. It was only described from a single specimen, as, like most of its relatives, it is not commonly seen. It has been observed sitting in pools of water on leaves to conserve water during the day. The individual seen was only 0.5 meters above the ground, but it is likely that the species prefers the upper canopy, like its relatives, which is why it is rarely seen. This is partially speculation, however, as little else is known about the Veraguas fringe-limbed frog. The Shaman fringe-limbed treefrog, Ecnomiohyla sukia, is only found in Costa Rica. It is considered least concern as the area it is found is protected, so its habitat is not thought to be threatened. It is found from 400 meters above sea level to 1300 meters, or 1300 to 4000 feet. Like with other species in this genus, they lay their eggs in water-filled cavities in tree trunks. However, a little more is known about this behavior in Shaman fringe-limbed treefrogs than in the other species. These cavities can be 3 to 15 meters above the ground, or about 10 to 50 feet. There are several advantages of this breeding strategy, as opposed to laying in streams or ponds like most other frog species. It reduces the risk of eggs being eaten by predators, and since this is typically a high canopy species, it also reduces the risk of the adults being attacked while going to lay their eggs. However, one notable question has been, what do the newly hatched tadpoles eat? There have been several suggestions put forth, but never any evidence to back them up. That is, until 2023, when Salvaje et al. Observed Shaman fringe-limbed tadpoles eating infertile eggs that their parent had laid. Oophagy, or egg-eating, has been a suggested answer to this problem as far back as 2002, but this is the first time it has been observed, confirming the suggestion. There are further suggestions around this that are yet to be conclusively proven. It is believed that these tadpoles experience a high level of parental care, as the females often stay near the tree cavity with her young. The suggestion is that she deposits more infertile eggs into the water at intervals, so the young have food to eat. It is also suggested that the tadpoles are actually obligate egg eaters, meaning that they can't eat anything else due to the shape of their mouths. The evidence for these suggested behaviours is still circumstantial, but if proven, would be a significant leap forward in our understanding of the behaviours of these frogs. That completes the first clade of these frogs. So, moving on to the next one, we start with the Heredia Treefrog, Ecnomiohyla fimbrimembra. Gliding has never been seen in this species, although it is assumed that it can, as it shares the fringe-like limbs on related species known to glide, like Copan Treefrog. A good reason why gliding might have never been seen in the Heredia Treefrog is the rarity of its sightings. It was first found in Costa Rica in the 1940s, where only 2 individuals were collected. A tadpole was collected in the 1960s, and then a couple more adults and tadpoles in the 1980s. In fact, it was in 1982 when one was found in Panama, requiring its known range to be extended to northwestern Panama. It is typically found between 500 to 1700 meters above sea level, or 1600 to 5000 feet. The one found in Panama was at the upper end of this altitude, so it is unknown if they are found at lower altitudes as well. The issue with finding this species is that they are often cryptically coloured, live in the high canopy, and may just be naturally rare. It is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. Although there is not enough information to estimate their abundance, their limited range makes it likely they are threatened, leading to this classification. They have been found in a range of colours, which, like I said earlier, is not unusual for frogs, but does include mottled moss-like coloration, along with more standard colours like browns and greens. Its tadpoles are recognisable as their tails are very long, about 77% of their total length, and they also have warty protrusions on their body. Its common name, Heredia, comes from the province in Costa Rica where it was first found. They like humid forests, but for some reason prefer trees that are less than 20 metres tall. The next species is the other newer one, the golden-eyed fringe-limbed tree frog, Ecnomiohyla bailarina. It was so named because its irises are a golden colour. It lives in the mid to high canopy of humid forests, 400 to 1400 meters, or 1300 to 4500 feet above sea level. They are nocturnal and have only been observed in 2 sites, one in eastern Panama and one in southeastern Costa Rica. It can be assumed that they inhabit the forest between these locations, but this is yet to be proven. It is classified as near threatened due to the few individuals found, but relatively large presumed range. The scientists who assessed its threat status do note that it is close to qualifying for the vulnerable status, due to the continued degradation of its habitat. To attract a mate, male golden-eyed fringe-limbed tree frogs perform calls at dusk. Unlike many other frogs, they only do a few short calls over a long period of time. Kubicki and Salazar, 2015, found one individual perform 9 advertising calls over a 9.5-hour period. These advertising calls typically only last for about 2 seconds each, so it seems surprising that the frogs manage to find each other at all. On the other hand, it is not hard to understand why researchers have such a hard time finding them if they barely make any noise even when calling for a mate. The last of the frogs that I was able to place into the phylogeny is Rabb's fringe-limbed tree frog, Ecnomiohyla rabborum. It was first described in 2008 and is listed as critically endangered by the IUCN, although they suggest it might even be extinct, but more surveys are required to confirm this. This is due to the frog only being known from a very small locality in central Panama. It has only been found near the town of Salvaje de Anton, so is in an area much smaller than 100 kilometers squared, which is one of the criteria the IUCN uses to list an animal as critically endangered. The last known individual, a frog named Tuffy, was kept at the Atlanta Botanical Garden but died in 2016, and no more have been found since. Additionally, its native range is known to be facing many threats. Habitat degradation and habitat loss are major dangers, but may not even be the most serious threat. In the study describing it to Science, Mendelssohn et al. 2008 stated that the reason they wanted to research the frogs in the area was due to the recent arrival of chytrid fungus. Chytrid fungus is one of the major causes of the decline or extinction of amphibian species worldwide. It is not known how it started, but it was first seen in Australia and has since been discovered in New Zealand, Africa, and the Americas as well. When it is first discovered in an area, it almost invariably is accompanied by a severe decline in the local frog numbers. All of the fringe-limbed tree frogs are actually threatened by it, but Rabb's fringe-limbed tree frog was the place in the video where it made sense to talk about it, as it is so linked with the species' decline and possible extinction. To give some context for how serious chytrid fungus is, it has been linked to the decline of 501 species of amphibian in the past 50 years. Of these, 90 are confirmed or presumed to be extinct in the wild, and a further 124 species have declined in number by more than 90%. So, moving on from the impending frog apocalypse, we should probably get back to Rabb's fringe-limbed tree frog. They laid their eggs in water found in the hollows of trees where their tadpoles hatch. When calling for a mate, males usually sit on a branch or vine near a suitable tree hollow. The males are believed to be territorial, so it is possible some of their calls are defending their territory in addition to calling for a mate. A single male may mate with several females who will all use the single tree hollow to lay their eggs. Males call throughout the year, but call more often during the onset of the rainy season from mid-March to May. There is also anecdotal evidence that calling may be more frequent for 2 or 3 days after a full moon. They were nocturnal, and like the other frogs in this genus, can glide using their spread fingers to escape from danger. We will now move on to the 6 Incerticetus species. I have not even tried putting these in any sort of order. They are literally just listed in the order that I wrote them down. We will, however, be moving outside of Costa Rica and Panama, which was basically the distribution of the previous 6 species. The first one we will be looking at is the Copan Treefrog. Ecnomiohyla salvaje is only found in very small areas in northern Honduras and southern Guatemala. The Copan Treefrog is considered endangered. This is due to its small range, which is estimated to be less than 900 meters squared combined, and it is threatened due to habitat loss and degradation in that area. This is actually a slight improvement, however, as in 2019 it was listed as critically endangered, as it was believed to inhabit an even smaller range. The discovery of another population of these frogs reduced its threat level slightly. It has only been found in areas 1,250 to 1,450 meters or 4,100 to 4,700 feet above sea level, which is a fairly narrow band of cloud forest. It lives in the forest canopy, so is another difficult to find species. One thing worth noting is that it may actually have been extirpated in the location where it was first discovered, as its habitat in that area has been completely destroyed. The next species is the Oaxacan fringe-limbed treefrog, Ecnomiohyla echinata. It is critically endangered as it is only found in Sierra Juarez in the Oaxaca province of Mexico, about 2,000 meters or 6,500 feet above sea level. While having a tiny known range, like the other critically endangered species we have looked at, it is unlike them as this area has been extensively searched looking for this species. Although not officially confirmed yet, it is presumed to be extinct, as despite these searches, the last confirmed record of a sighting was in 1962. If a population does exist, then it is believed to contain less than 50 mature individuals. Since it was last seen in the 60s, it is not surprising I could not find a photo of it to show you, but there is not even a drawing of it. So, instead, here is a nice picture of the rainforest in Sierra Juarez where it was last seen. The Oaxacan fringe-limbed treefrog was smaller than many of the other frogs in this genus, but still moderately large at around 6 centimeters or 2 inches long. It lives in the cloud forest, as you might expect given the altitudes it is found at. It is suspected, but not confirmed, that it sometimes used bromeliads as well as tree hollows to lay its eggs. This may also occur in other species, but one of the few Oaxacan fringe-limbed treefrogs collected was specifically noted as being found on a bromeliad, lending extra speculation to this suggestion. The next species is the Cerro treefrog, Ecnomiohyla thysanota. If you thought the information on the previous species was limited, then this one is basically non-existent. It is only known from the specimen that was described in 1966 and has never been seen again. Like with the last one, this means no pictures, but this time I will just leave the location map up as I couldn't even find a photo of the location. The IUCN lists it as data deficient, noting that it is only known from one place, the Cerro in Panama, at 1,265 meters or 4,150 feet above sea level. This is near the Colombian border, so it is speculated to also occur in Colombia, although again, only one specimen has ever been found. Despite this, it is not thought to be extinct, as unlike the Oaxacan fringe-limbed treefrog, no effort has really been made to search for it. This is unfortunate given the endangered status of many of the other frogs in this genus, so it would be good to at least know if it is extinct or not. The Guatemala Treefrog, Ecnomiohyla minera, is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. Its range is much larger than the last few we have looked at, but still only covers a relatively small area of Guatemala and Belize. Additionally, this habitat is severely fragmented, so its population is thought to be decreasing. It has been found between 630 to 1,830 meters or 2,000 to 6,000 feet above sea level. The Guatemala treefrog lives in the high canopy of undisturbed cloud forests and highland rainforests. It is assumed to breed in tree hollows or bromeliads like its close relatives. It is another rarely seen species, as encountering it is highly unlikely due to its preference for the high canopy. I could not find much else information on this frog, except that a lot of websites list it as endemic to Guatemala. This is technically not true, as I said earlier it is found in Belize as well. The next species is the ghost fringe-limbed tree frog, Ecnomiohyla phantasmagoria. This common name does not seem to be used often, as I only found it in a single source translated from Spanish. It was likely used because of its species name, which contains the word phantasm. However, it is quite fitting for this species, as it is only known from the holotype. The holotype of a species is basically the first individual of a species that is collected for scientific study. In theory, it should have features that make it representative of the species as a whole, although in this case it is literally one known specimen. The specimen was collected near Rio Cauca in Colombia, leading to the other common name it is sometimes known by, the Rio Cauca fringe-limbed frog. Part of the reason that only one species has ever been found is that no more surveys for it have been conducted near Rio Cauca, as it is an area plagued by civil unrest, so it is not considered safe to visit. The ghost fringe-limbed frog was originally considered a specimen of Cope's brown tree frog, Ecnomiohyla miliaria. This was in 1970, but over 30 years later in 2001, the same researcher disagreed with his previous conclusions and described it as a new species. Unsurprisingly, the IUCN have listed it as data deficient. As for its behaviours, this is impossible to infer from the information available about only this one specimen. However, it can be assumed to share many of the characteristics of the other frogs in this genus. It lives in the high canopy, breeds in tree hollows, possibly glides, and so on. With the limited information available, it is hard to come to any other conclusions, so let's move on to the last species currently known in this genus. This is the San Martin fringe-limbed tree frog, Ecnomiohyla valancifer. It is critically endangered, only being found in a small locality in Mexico. As with most of its genus, it is considered very rare, although it is likely also difficult to find, but is only known from 5 individuals. Whatever population is left is likely in severe threat of extinction, as the small area where they are known to live is slowly being deforested to convert the land into pasture for agriculture. The nearby reserve does provide some protection, but deforestation is still occurring. Again, only 5 San Martin fringe-limbed frogs have ever been collected, so you're probably expecting me to repeat the same things I did with the ghost fringe-limbed tree frog, and unfortunately much of it is the same, as not much else is known about it. This is a rather anticlimactic way to end the video, but there is not a lot that I can do about that. Before closing off on this video, I do want to give a quick mention to the small-eared tree frog, Rheohyla miotympanum. Many online sources still list this as a member of Ecnomiohyla, but this is outdated. It was originally placed in Ecnomiohyla, but was moved to be the only member of Rheohyla in 2016. This change is still somewhat disputed, but this argument is unlikely to be resolved unless genetic testing can be done to compare the small-eared tree frog to the frogs in Ecnomiohyla. Given how rarely seen many of these species are, this is unlikely to happen anytime soon, so for now the small-eared tree frog remains in its own genus. I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was quite difficult to make due to the scarcity of information about these fascinating frogs, so it really required a lot of research to get all of this information together in one place. Thank you for listening, and feel free to suggest another group of animals you want to see me cover in the comments.